Good morning and welcome back. So happy to have you here, actually. So grateful that I have regular listeners. Makes me feel good. Thank you. I do this for myself. I invite the world in. I realize that most of them have not accepted my invitation yet, and that's okay because I'm probably not ready for that kind of attention anyway. So, what's the show? The show is Who Am I? And it's an attempts to be a frank and honest discussion, but not a debate. We're not debating anything. We're not debating anyone. The idea for this conversation is non-resistant thought, allowing all things. We're in a state of allowing, not in a state of pushing back against anything like a debate would kind of be. We're going to discuss reality itself because I don't think that's actually understood as well as we think it is. Nobody ever talks about it because we assume it is understood. But everybody's idea of reality and their fundamental underlying reality that they imagine is mostly coming from their religions. And that is a patchwork of different ideas cobbled together. I mean, it's like everybody has a different idea about what reality is and what the fundamental laws are, and who you actually are and what's actually going on, you know? How does Now, I'm not going to approach it from that direction. It's not a debate. And it is not my desire whatsoever to undermine anybody's religion. My intention would more be, you could see, I would like you to understand your religion. I would like all of us to understand our religions, to recognize the truth that they were trying to say and where sometimes they got mixed up with their power and control and human social elements that start coming in that's different than this eternal truth that they as a religion are trying to stand on and perpetuate. Who am I? How do the energies work? Is that stepping on anybody's toes? I don't mean it to be. Discussions of this will lead us to a couple of things. The most important one, probably, for each individual is that when you understand how these things work, you can work your own personal formulas so that things work out better for you, so that your life is smoother and more joyful and more interesting and more satisfying. And then collectively, we've got some places that we're going to go to. Now, you wouldn't think that the collective stuff is really your business a lot of times, but it totally is. We are a big collective being, and there's a lot of things that pull us together. Human beings need to understand the structure of organization, and it's coming directly from the structure of the universe. Because the actual... As I look at things, I realize that even when it comes down to a few members of a family trying to organize their activity to accomplish a particular goal, a little family business that we were doing, you still pull it together on the same principles of order or chaos. And it's all running on the frequencies of different spirits, different emotions. If you would understand your own emotions, your own emotional guidance system, your own life would make a lot more sense. And then when you look out and try to make sense of either current events, history, politics, big movements in the world, wars and displacements and just different things going on in the world, when you're trying to figure out why is this going on? Why are we getting what we are getting? When you start to understand these energies, you will start to understand why we are getting what we are getting. And you will immediately start to understand what will make it better. The first thing is that I understand these things. So even though it looks like I am preaching to the world, the fact is my first and foremost object of my exercise is for me to more and more and more clearly every day I walk this earth, do I wish to more clearly understand how these energies work so I do not step crosswise of them. So I do not walk the labyrinth in a way where I accidentally open a door and there is a demon that I did not anticipate. Actually, even that isn't a problem, because no demon is really a demon. We're all whole individuals. Anyone acting in a negative state is a partial individual. They are acting only out of their partialness, and they are capable of quite a bit of evil, I would have to say. Why do I talk in such strange terms? It's because I'm abstracting it to so that it doesn't matter what specific condition you're talking about. You're talking about wanted and unwanted. You're talking about people acting from their negative self, people acting from their positive self, all that kind of stuff. None of that says anybody's names, any particular jobs, any particular time period. It swatches across all spaces in an abstract way, the same way mathematics does. Now, I know that human beings kind of frown on the generalizing. Generalizing is actually a dangerous occupation and not always welcomed by the rest of the group. For you to notice large commonalities in a big general way that doesn't actually say anything specific, that's kind of frowned upon. It's not considered polite, perhaps, what it is that I'm doing. You know, I talk in generalities. I speak in abstractions. I talk about source energy, which is like, it sums up to the G word, which most people, they have their own way of talking about it. Their religion is their way of talking about this subject. And that's where they leave it. And you know, I don't really blame them in a way, because unless you have a way of adding it in without other people's different thoughts undermining the solidity of how you feel about things, you might have some trouble. But you know what? I don't mean to undermine religions, because their organizational structure covers actually a lot more than just some ideas and some thoughts, although I would challenge some of their ideas and some thoughts. I don't really need to. There's no need to, because it isn't a debate. The analogy I give, it's turning out almost every day. It applies. The blind men and the elephant, all of them seeing the elephant differently, but accurately describing some aspect of them. And if the all of the people were adding their information together with one another, recognizing that in some ways, that it's all a perspective. Now, it may be all a perspective, but that guy standing at the ear of the elephant is accurately adding an aspect of the conversation that the other guys need to know in order for them to accurately describe an elephant. So if they're all standing at different points on the elephant, saying this one, an elephant's like a sail, no, it's like a rope, no, it's like a snake, no, it's like a tree, no, it's like a wall. They're all right, but if they start arguing about it, no, it's like a, then they're wrong. And if they add it up with one another, then they're all right. Do you see how that works? And it's almost like the allness that we share between us, this big all thing, whatever it is, it's made of stuff, it's a universe, it's galaxies and stars, it's this planet, it's our history, it's current events, it's the nowness that we are all in right now, this big all other thing. So it's like there's you and your physical body, and then there's the all of everything else. And every single one of us shares that exactly with each other, with the exception of I'm sharing me from here and you are sharing you from there. Other than that, it's exactly the same. Although that makes all the difference. It makes all the difference. There's nothing the same about it at all, except for we are all in the same larger frame. And, if you're new to the show and you just heard that, you're like, well, that doesn't sound very profound. Well, the fact is that new physics, unified physics, tells us that the universe is holographic, which means that all of the information of all of the universe is with every bit of it all the time. Do you know how sacred that makes every single thing? And, if the last year of developing this Who Am I project I've got going on, the Who Am I project, has done nothing else for me, it has really hammered into my realization how important that is. That really is important. You got to stop and think about that for a minute. You might think that there is a place that's the armpit of the universe, or the dandruff of the universe, or the toenail of the universe, or someplace that you're imagining is like the elbow, the back alley, the forgotten nothing where of the universe. And you realize that there isn't anything. There isn't anywhere that is not connected to all of the rest of there is nowhere that doesn't have all the information of the universe. And where all the living beings go, as far as all of the living beings go, this is really important information. I'm going to tell us how to survive, because I believe that the object of the exercise of this great project humanity, Who Am I? The object of the exercise is joyful sustainability. And I'm not quite sure we've reached that yet. All of the cultures are mashing up against one another. They're pressing up against one another, and they're competing, and they're conflicting, and they're... Are we going to make it? Are we going to make it? Is it going to be is there going to be an apocalypse? And then we live forever in a post-apocalyptical hellscape, paved over, and like Escape from New York, like that one. Or is it going to be like uh, Mad Max? Or is it going to be Waterworld? You know? Or let's see what other kind of things we got going on. What was the... Oh. Or maybe Wall-E. Did you see that? Maybe that one was animated. I don't want to live like that. I don't want to live like any of those things. And I believe, now I am seeing something in my mind, in my heart, in my imagination, in my vision, in my inner spirit. I can see downloads from my imagination telling me that this is either where we are going or where we could go. I'm not sure which one of it is. Abraham would tell us that it's where we are going. But it may be a while before it would happen naturally, and maybe a few apocalypses in between. Like I would say that the World War last century was an apocalypse. It was terrible. You say the World War? Which war would she be talking about? Well, I have decided to call the World War Parts 1 and 2. And the reason I call it that is because even though it looks like two entirely different events, the one was absolutely a thread that led directly to the next one, both on a collective level and on an individual level from Hitler's point of view, because Hitler was really the one that invited us all back to part 2 of that little excursion. But I like to call it that because if you call it the World War Parts 1 and 2, it does not imply a second one or a third one. If you have World War One and World War Two, then you imagine that the obvious next one is World War III and World War IV. And just even a few days ago, Trump was even using the words World War III. You know, he was warning about it for whatever reason. Now, people didn't think that that was what was going to happen, and I don't think that that's what's going to happen because I have no interest in that whatsoever. Neither do I believe that it will fix anything. Neither do I believe that anybody is... I don't think the answer is anybody bombing anybody. And so I don't think anybody ought to bomb anybody in the first place, and I don't think anybody ought to bomb anybody back. There has to be better answers to this kind of conflict. And I believe that there is. It's probably not an accident that our attention goes to the Middle East, where all the oil is, and that our attention goes to Ukraine, where Putin is making his little war over there. And the reason that Putin has his power is he's got a lot of oil. He actually has all of the other resources of his country. But if he didn't have the oil, if people had their own energy supply, they could thumb their nose at anything and anybody and go off into the wilderness and do their own thing. Now, not entirely, because they need to they can't do it as outlaws. They can't do it as outlaws, and so their country's government needs to be square, needs to be in alignment. Their country's vision of who they are and what they are about needs to be clear. And nations are like personalities, and nations, like personalities, need to get their shit straight. and need to not be their negative self, need to be their positive self. Um, Excuse me, hold on one second. Pardon me. That's my morning frog. I actually call it my morning toad because we live in the desert. More extremely do we live in the desert right now than usual. We've had a month of, it's been quite dry. And part of my job is to not spend too much time focusing on that, which I easily could. I could focus on it and I could get very agitated about it because I do not like drought. But, there's a lot of, which disaster do you choose? Drought? Hurricane? Well, with drought comes fire. That's the one. Drought, hurricane, pick your poison. Tornado, flooding. We don't get much flooding around here. It's funny, I'm a quarter of a mile from the Rio Grande, but we don't get much flooding at this bend of the river. Although FEMA requires flood insurance here. Mortgages require flood insurance because apparently there's some danger of, I don't know, right now it's drought, it's not flood. Pick your disaster. Which one? You're on planet Earth right now and we're having a rough ride. We're having a roller coaster of a ride. There's harsh things going on. We've got weird elections coming up too, with weird things that it seems surreal to some of us, that some of the energies of the political sides have gotten to where they are. It doesn't seem like America in a way. You've got the one side that is just wacky and mean-spirited. And could that be it? One side feels very mean-spirited, but the other side, whom I used to think wasn't so mean-spirited, is developing a really mean spirit too, and an us and them attitude about things that is not quite as bad as the other side. See how I'm trying to speak in abstractions? I'm trying not to say which political party I believe is on which side. But when you understand how I feel about Hitler, and that I am actually an academic student of all of my life of the Hitler phenomenon and the Nazi phenomenon and World War II in general, the World War Part 2. The World War Part 2. See, I haven't even gotten it myself. Part 2 of the World War. You kind of have to be a little bit of a student of the first part of that. And then the Weimar Republic in between, and the market and how it was trying to find its legs, and people were not, they were not sustained and they were not supported. We need to be supported by the larger group, but there is a danger there. I think that it is okay to be supported if we understand who we are and what the object of the exercise is and what everybody is all about and what is expected of everybody. What is expected of you? Know thyself. Try to understand yourself and the situation around you and figure out some meaningful way to be yourself and add something meaningful to the rest of the group. Now, the way you can do that has blown open, wide open compared to what it used to be. It used to be a very rigid band of acceptable, I'm air quoting, acceptable activities that you could engage in order to be considered to be adding back to the group. You know, you could practically go to a directory of job titles. This is all the things you had to choose from. What do you want to be? And if none of them appealed, well, too bad, because life is calling there and the group needs you. Now, somewhere along the line, the fabric of society shattered. It tore asunder. And that really rigid, narrow definition of who we were split wide. And all of a sudden, you can really almost be anybody now. Almost anybody. And this is the moment in time before, doors start slamming shut and weird things start happening, because there will be a moment when that starts to happen too. But if we do this now, it gets out ahead of that and we'll be okay. This is the moment where we all rise. Everybody rise and be your authentic self, even if it seems weird. Follow your calling, follow your bliss. There are so many things you can be now. And I realize that amongst the land of the disenfranchised, there's a lot of places that are starting to get a little tracks that are getting more heavily worn and really aren't such a good career path, maybe, but still might be the right thing for you to go through spiritually, like yoga teacher training or something. You may not actually be heading to be a yoga teacher, but the spiritual kinds of lessons that they teach you about the universe and the energies that flow within and around us could be helpful. I don't know. What are you called to do? Is it... the thing is there is a practical world, and then there is a world of dreaming. And there is a place where the dreaming meets the practical. And neither is cut out. They just kind of have to be put in place. And somewhere in the middle of that, you've got to find out who you are and how you fit into the bigger picture, and how you can find your way to your dreams come true, your happily ever after, your how do I get what I want? How do I even know what I want? Well, I'm going to give you some advice. Start in the general. And know that who you are and what you really want is vibrational, and I'm going to tell you the vibrations that you want. The who you really are. What vibrations do you want? Because you are a vibrational being in a vibrational universe. And here's the vibrations you want. Freedom. Freedom. Joy. Expansion. Now those are the three things that your whole experience is founded on. Freedom, joy, expansion, or growth. And Abraham always makes a joke right here. She goes, yeah, and you always go, yeah. Yes, Abraham, growth. Because everyone wants to focus on the aspect that is the expansion part. And they get ahead of themselves, though, when they don't understand what the real object of the exercise is. Your inner being knows what you really want, and knows that the business or the money is secondary in your mind in a way, because what you really want is a big, beautiful house. You want, to be able to move about the world. You want to feel effective and alive. You want to have friends and you want to have fun. You want to live in a world where everybody else is doing the same thing. You want to eat good food. You want to live in a beautiful, living, vibrant environment. All of those things you want. Some of them are individual, some of them are collective. There's a lot of good stuff going on out there that you want to join into. There's a lot of stuff that's kind of dowdy out there that you wish was better. There's all kinds of things. Now, so here's the vibrational list of what you want. I did freedom, joy, expansion, or growth, I guess. I did those, but there's a lot more. So freedom, safety, abundance, beauty, fun. What other kinds of things can I say in a real general way? These things are who you are. And if you would focus on these feelings and then only peep your eyes out into the field around you, kind of get into the habit of sort of glazing over the darker spots and homing in on where you notice all the good stuff is, what will happen to you is you'll get into a habit of noticing how much good there really is out there and how it's trying to peep out of everywhere. And if you would focus on that, you could assist it everywhere, with a smile and a twinkle in your eye and a spirit of encouragement everywhere. And then you don't even really see the bad stuff. You might think that this is going to be counterproductive, because what the object of the exercise really is to make what is not so good better. And how can you do that if you don't focus on what's bad? Well, because you're looking at the same field. It's just in one instance you are focusing on all of the aspects that piss you off and make you frightened, and the parts of it that you believe are off. Okay, how is that going to help? How is that going to help? Actually look at the exact same landscape. Now focus on the aspects that you like, where people are in the darkness, where that homeless person, cracked a smile or made a self-deprecating joke, makes me want to turn around and hand them $50, But when they whine and send out needy energy, you are, even though part of you may realize, I don't like this needs to change, this needs to be better. So I go to the bigger picture, because I think there's a bigger picture here that we are missing, that somehow we have all gotten lost in. We all went off into our own diverse little spaces, and we have lost the sense of the bigger picture of who we are and things moving. How do they move? Who am I? What's really going on? How do we make it better? There's a lot of ways to make it better. Be kinder yourself. Be more giving. Be more, but do it from an inspiration of true, joyful kindness, not from a sense of, oh, I do this for you because I see that you cannot do this for yourself. That actually isn't the best energy to put out. They start leaning that direction. Oh, my weakness is what caused them to give me something, so I will just lean into my weakness. This does not make the world a better place. But you can still, if you feel inspired to help someone, do it. always be kind in your thoughts. Do not secretly judge them off to yourself, thinking that that's okay. I'll just do it in my thoughts, but I'm not actually going to kick them, or anything like that. That's not good enough. You have to understand in your thoughts, we are all in this together, and somehow everybody, including the crack addict, hollering at the end of the block, or the homeless person down the street, on Central and whatever, or your ornery neighbor, or your difficult children, or both political parties. They are all your unknown self made visible, and we are all in this together. Now, that's there's a trick here, and there's a trap here, because you don't want to go to the lockstep and groupthink aspect of this. That's where you don't understand that you already are one, and then you feel like you have to impose it from the outside. And if that is forced in any way, if it's a kind of group step or a lockstep or groupthink, and I don't know if there could be such a thing, a lockstep and groupthink that was joyfully and with utter freedom being participated in by all the individuals in the group, free to leave it if they want to, or stay joined if they want to. If there is a lockstep and groupthink like that, you know what that kind of thing is? That's like the local cheerleading squad. You do it cheerfully, you do it joyfully, you do it willingly, and you group think and you lockstep, for the routines that you do, and that's all you do. And then you go off and do the rest of your own thing, spin off into your own lives and do your own thing. But when it gets political, and when it gets forced as this is how we must do things collectively as a people, and it's imposed by your government from the top down or some such, by the law, by the structures of the organization of your government, then it becomes a real problem. So, we get back to that question. Who am I? Who am I? Who am I as an individual? Who am I as a I got this little driving me nuts. Something that's tippity tapping, and I want it to stop. All right. Who am I? I promised, or I promise in the description, and then I often promise as I start the show, and then I forget to close up the ends. I forget to tie up all the loose ends of all the things I open up, the cans I open up of different things. I meant to talk some about unified physics. We will find as we discuss this more and more within ourselves, and it's not just going to be me. I didn't think this up, and I'm not the main group discussing it either, by the way. And I have never discussed it with the main group that discusses it, by the way. It's very interesting. I am connected to no one. And it's going to be interesting. My life is going to be very, very interesting as I live the next, I plan to be over 100 before I die. And I plan on staying vibrant and alive and cheerful until the very end of it, no matter what. It's part of my formula, because I'm going to be working these formulas, figuring out how to take the blows of life, of society, of my culture. I may be doing this show for the next 50 years. And someday it may even have better graphics than, I like these little backgrounds that I've got. This one I call her Magic Child. And I just like her. I don't know what she's doing. walking into the twinkly lights. And as I mature, I'm a boomer, by the way, in case you're wondering. I don't usually say much about who I am, but I plan on being vibrant and alive and relevant to my world in some way, even if it's just general, you know, until my last breath. I want to be an inspiration. I want to be an example of the easy thing I'm talking about, just lining up just the two of you. You are two beings. One is your source self. I call that original spin. Because somehow I imagine it is. It is the original spin that we all spin out of, and the pull of that shared point draws us back. It's both love and gravity. I don't know how that works. That is just kind of a mysterious, I'm not sure how that is, but it is. Gravity is the pull of the spin of the vortex. Of spinning space-time in that part of the field. Einstein described gravity as the curvature of space-time caused by the large object. And the larger the object, the more it caused the space-time around it to curve. But nobody has ever explained why that is. The reason that it is because the field is spinning. It is spin. Everything is spinning. And the dark matter that we haven't added in is the coffee. Well, we're only adding up the cream that you can see. That's what the universe is like. This spinning field of plasma or whatever, and where it is organized into individual spins, you see it as stuff, matter, atoms, things, stuff around you. And where it isn't organized in spin, you see it as space. But in actual fact, the whole thing is spinning. The whole thing is spinning. And that spin we all share. And so you have two spins. You have your source self that you share with all the rest of the field, with all the rest of biology, with all the rest of humanity. There is a spin that you share with all of us. You are one with all the rest of the field. And then you have your own spin. Your own spin. You put your own spin on things. Do you ever wonder why we talk the way we talk? It's because it's all spin. That's all it is. That's the only thing you're seeing. When this Planck field, when these vacuum fluctuations go into coherent spin, we call it atoms, we call it protons, and those get together in groups and glumps, and we call them planets and stars and galaxies and clusters and superclusters and universes, and they are all black holes. Black holes, every one of them, every vortex of spin is like the center of a singularity. But they all spring forth from a singularity that we all share. And so what does this mean to me practically? Well, what it means that is, if you could weave into all of your schemes all of these spirits that you care most about, if you could figure out how to make it beautiful, how to make it more efficient, how to make it more fun, how to make it more safe, how to make it more uh, all of the things, all of the spirits that you care about, weave those spirits into everything in your life and see the spirits first. See them primarily. And if you see the spirits first, then the matter that you weave will reflect the spirits. We're not taught how to do this. We're not taught how to focus because we don't understand how our equipment works. We are taught as 21st and 20th century 20th and 21st century beings. We are taught, actually I'm not sure what they're teaching kids anymore these days because I'm not a kid growing up. But I know that we were taught to primarily focus on the material world. Focus on the matter. Focus on the state of it right now. Focus on exactly where we are. Focus on, what needs to be done. Focus right here, right now on the stuff right around you. There's peas to be snapped, and there's corn to be shucked, and there's peaches to be canned, and there's beds to be made, and there's whatever. And I grew up kind of in a world like that. The farm world's kind of like that. But not all people live in a world like that, where it's best to be focusing right here, right now, on exactly what you've got. There's more to the world than just the atoms you're looking at right in front of you. There's more to your relevant world than just that. As a matter of fact, people imagine all the time that they have some kind of a significant or meaningful handle on the greater world around them. The fact that we are all expected to go out in a month and vote for the leader of our whole nation from these two people that we get to choose from, it's like that it's not the best choices, but they are fairly clear choices. In one way, they are both establishment choices. They both will probably not significantly change things, although the one side probably stands a very high chance of trying to change things in our political structure. They're going to want to change things more. They're going to try to change the power structure of things. For sure, centralizing the power more and giving the person at the top more authority to control things. It's all out of control, like the Weimar Republic again, and people are just, they're going every which way. They're doing just like in the 20s, just like in the early 30s. Actually, it was the 20s, before the crash, the roaring 20s. It's that moment in time again. And do we want to keep the power in the masses, or do we want to consolidate it up to the top so that some strong man can say, I'm going to tell you where to put the roads and where to build the buildings, and we'll just get it all done. But you don't want that. You don't want that. As a matter of fact, it will lead ultimately not to creation, but tremendous destruction. And I hate to say it, but if it should happen, it will happen because it needs to happen. And if it doesn't happen, it will be because it didn't need to happen. And I think it might boil down to remember the quote from JFK, I think it was JFK who said this, those who make peaceful evolution. Did he say evolution? I would say it this way. I don't know exactly what he said. Those who make peaceful evolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable. See how I did that? Usually it's revolution and revolution. This time I went evolution and revolution. I'm not really sure which way he said it. That's another one of my quotes. I like to pull that one out because it's meaningful. We have to be free to expand, to grow, to learn, to get better, even if it's us being diverse and us being different. The diversity is what's going to save us, people. The diversity has already saved us to a point, has saved us so far from entering into what some might call World War III. I'm going to call it World War II because I think we have only had one, parts 1 and 2. Hitler was right there in the first one, and he was absolutely not finished with World War I. And he purposefully set about to gain control of Germany and all of its power structure, and he immediately set about rearming so that he could go back in there and right that wrong. Finish that job. That was absolutely the same World War. But depending on how you look at it, if you're looking at it down on the ground, from a history and news and stuff, it kind of looks like World War I and World War II. But I think it's just one, parts 1 and 2. Who are we? Don't let that happen again. I think the reason it's not is because we have come a long way in our sense of identity since then, in our diversity of our sense of identity, and the way that our attention is scattered in a jillion directions. There's 8 billion of us, and we are not gonna all get together and blame those people for that such and such and armed to the teeth all around the world and fight each other, because we just don't believe that it works that way anymore. You can't find enough people to join that war, because people are going to say, yeah, it's bad, but that's not the way to fix it. Jeez. What are you, a barbarian? What are you, a 20th century... a boomer? What's the matter with you? That's not the way you fix things. That may be the problem, but that is not the way you fix things. How do you fix things? Well, I think that a lot of our problems being caused by an energy shortage. And I think a lot of that is being caused by us not understanding the very source of all energy, this 0-point field, this divine matrix, this energy field that is matrixing us together with one another. Why does it matter that there is a place where we all are? Because what it implies is the win-win paradigm, the win-win position. Our inner being is standing where I win and you win and they win and she wins and everybody wins. And there's enough abundance that you can go off and do your own thing in your own space and it doesn't bother me. If we are all in harmony with the field around us, we can create abundance like unto such that this world has never known. The likes of which this world has never known. That's the way to say that. That's what we can do, but we have to understand this abundance creating machine. And we have to understand who we are within it. We are cells in the body, in the great body of the allness, the Almighty. Amen. Amen. And how do you be more conducive for all of love and efficiency and beauty and safety and freedom and Lock into those frequencies, people, and get your eyes off the material world quite so much. Lock onto the frequencies. Now, when you address the material world, you are a beacon that helps those frequencies come into life. That's the whole point. You are supposed to be, because those frequencies are who you are. You are a frequency. You are a broadcast. You are a total spectrum, a bandwidth of frequencies. You're the whole thing. And those frequencies are all those feelings that I said before. The feelings are what you want. The feelings. And you're looking for an experience in this material plane that equals all those high feelings. Well, the way to do it is not to lock onto the matter. And then if every once in a while you catch a glimpse of something that equals those spirits, then, you're relieved and you're like, oh, good, I get to feel that feeling. No. Give yourself permission to feel the feelings. Lock onto the frequencies. Now you're scanning the outside world. Now you're scanning the material world for things that equal those frequencies. And when you find them, what do you say? You say, there I am. That's who I am. That's who I am. That's who I am. You're finding yourself every step of your life, every step of your way. Who am I? Who am I? Who am I? And so we ask the question. That's why we do it every day. Who am I? How is this going to help us in our life? Well, you're going to realize when you turn around and see who we are collectively that we're pretty far from this in a way. But I wouldn't lock on to that. Because when you see it from inside of yourself and then you respond when you feel the echo of it outside of yourself, you see the reflection of it outside yourself, you do it inside yourself, and then you recognize it when it pings on the outside world. And you're like, oh, there I am. There is beauty. There's freedom. There's joy. There's fun. When you do that, you actually help those qualities in the outside world grow, because your focus and your attention is causing whatever is out there to grow. Whatever you're looking at, it's getting bigger. Whatever you're giving it your attention to, that is growing in the world. Now, you may think that you are giving your attention to alleviating the suffering of that group of people. And if you truly are focusing there, and you are focusing on the kindness, and focusing on the friendship, and focusing on making sure that, you help them in their joy and in their path, or in their suffering in their path. If you're doing that, great. That's wonderful. But if you're just sitting on the other side of the world, maybe giving to an organization, but you yourself are just feeling bad because those children over there are suffering, you may not be helping the world any. Because your own frequency needs to rise. The world needs your ideas of fun and joy and better and beauty and freedom and safety and all that kind of stuff, and you just can't do it if you're feeling you gotta lock into the feelings and then wait for the moment that you can dive into the specific in the physical world on the wings of those feelings, of any of those feelings. You're looking to expand that. The other thing is you are not just yourself, and it is important, very important, that your calculations include the fact that you are not just yourself. Your inner being is fully aware of every single being around you and all of their desires, and understands that the true winningest position for any of us down here in the biological field is a win for the most of us. There actually is a place where all of us could find a win-win. If a species cannot adapt to the greater, larger group, then they're going to be the ones who are eliminated. Any of us who have imaginings of us, once we're almost, we've almost killed the earth, there's practically no plants or animals left, and the last human beings are going to take off in a starship and head for Mars and colonize Mars. Colonize Mars, I guess. I don't think it's going to happen. If we can't make it here, then we don't understand the principles at work, and we're not going to make it there either. We are all in this together. There is a field that we are all a part of that goes beyond your skin, past your species. It's a matrix that we're all a part of. And I see that we're over an hour, and I've got to go because we're actually going to play golf this morning, and we have a 7:30 tee time on the Executive 9. So we haven't played in a while, so wish me luck. Go forth in your day, be as kind and as loving as you can, as patient, as good. Pull your good humor together, because that is your whole self. That's who you really are. Your angry self is also who you are, but it's just a piece of it. It's not your whole self. It's just a piece of it. Who is your whole self? Your whole self is all of your love. All of your love. Everything that you love. Everything you ever have loved. All of your love is who you are. And if you've left it back with some ex or something that you now hate, and you cannot find the love, the you that you were when you loved that person, then you've lost a piece of yourself. And you got to go find it. Because you need your whole self in order to handle this crazy, crazy world. There is a way out of the wilderness. I didn't really speak that much about quantum physics today. I did mention it a time or two. We didn't talk about the Plancks and how they work, the fullness, the spinning, the black hole structure, the Big Bangs, any of those things, the forces, the fundamental forces. I have my own way of talking about it. The gravity and the gravity and love is the water going in anyway, I'll be back tomorrow. At least I think I will. I was almost not there this morning. I almost slept in because I have to get up extra early because I had to be done before 6:30. So, and I am. I hope you'll be back with me tomorrow. I love you. Let's talk about this some more. Who am I? Who am I? And how does this whole freaking structure work? Until next time, do your best. Love each other. Be easy on yourself. And especially know that Source is with you.